Welcome back to the Daily Dose, and
Why not?
where we're covering, and why not? Why not? Where were we? We were telling stories about telling stories.
Well, I think squarely landing on day one, because that was, the end of, I'll cap this to say the end of the festival was the Comedy Sports Show, and shout out to Comedy Sports, our friends. It was a beautiful ending, and there will be more on that. For the purposes of what we're trying to get in the next level of Yes and Exercise, some foundation. Day one, I think, is our strongest step forward. It's a big ask, and I'm putting this flatly out there to everybody right now that this is for the people with Parkinson's, the care partners, even medical wellness experts who want to explore their story. Why are you involved with Parkinson's, and what are you hearing? I mean, it would be amazing to get a clinician physician to tell their Parkinson's story as a person without Parkinson's who treats Parkinson's. I mean, what would that hero's journey look like?
Wow.
And how important would it be to hear? So people go, oh, that's why he or she talks or acts that way. And I'm by no means judging. I'm just saying we all have perspectives, and we would do well to hear them, in a story form, in a way we could digest.
I think we've said this before, but I was really the message of ending Parkinson's that really stayed with me was it's because people wouldn't. I have a double negative going here. People saw their friends dying and they didn't know why in the early 80s of a
For
strange,
HIV/AIDS.
frightening, and then we figured out it was HIV, and it led to AIDS, and then everybody was terrified.
Right.
And then the people who were living and dying with that condition weren't willing to accept being ostracized,
Right.
which is what was happening.
Right.
And they just shouted louder. And the mothers of people who were killed by drunk drivers put their voices together in such a loud, present, public way,
Right.
that the legislators couldn't ignore it. And Parkinson's is the fastest growing neurologic disease in the world.
We can't say that enough.
Yeah. And the need for research, of course, is powerful, and it's happening. But it's most of the research that is out there is medically oriented, and that's awesome. And there's also a growing awareness of the non-motor quality of life bits that get lost for those of us with Parkinson's from time to time. Not everybody every day by any means.
But it accumulates, right? Each one of those, it's a death of 1,000 cuts, those things on the social, psycho, and cognitive level, right? Where the motor, like you said, at least there's a team working on that. Not that you don't do your part, but who's handling that social, psycho, and cognitive part?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a mishmash of answers. For your motor, oh sure, I go to my movement disorder specialist. There's no question about that. What do I do for the other things? Right? And we're trying to solidify that answer.
And we've had such a positive response, like close to 100%. A lot. I mean, a lot of support for this work as a form of exercise. And we've had pushback with the concept that you would call improv and storytelling and exercise. And my personal experience is, as a regular practice, it's changed foundational things about me and for me.
Well, and it's work though, because you've worked it. I always have to highlight that it works because you work it. It's like any exercise.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, it's not a magical pill. This is work that will have a positive effect if you work it.
You treat it as a form of exercise.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
Let me wrap one thing back because we're running out of time. I want to complete the thought that, again, back to Ray and ending Parkinson's disease. You mentioned HIV/AIDS. You mentioned mother getting drunk driving. That's what we need in the Parkinson's community. We need that level of cohesion to basically say, these are the stories. This is why not only do we need the research dollars, but we need to get these chemicals out of our society so that we can stop the prevalence rate. If we can drop down to a trickle of the number of people being diagnosed, then we could focus our energy more on a cure or quality of life. But the more people that get diagnosed, the more spread this thing gets, the more out of control it's going to be. And it's preventable. If it's, I mean, literally, it's a man-made thing with these chemicals, so it can be man-stopped.
As it has been in most other countries in the world, including the countries that manufacture the chemicals.
Right.
What's wrong with that picture? Well, we don't want to end on a down note, so I'd like to consider that day one might be a lovely way to begin to get stories put together.
That's the bottom line. Is the exploration in storytelling. It's transformative. And yes, I mean, I'm highlighting the work, but by no means am I saying this is all negative and awful. And no, I mean, we do have fun. It's built in on purpose because it's not a solitary exercise. It's a group exercise.
It is, and as we do those things, our voices, we hear them, and we feel safer using them, and then confidence is there at a greater level.
You realize you are creative, and your communication grows, and that is your daily dose.